Just when you thought it was safe to have a piss in the swimming pool again, crab attack. So yeah, this week's show, we're going to be having our monthly book club featuring...
Monthly?
Yes, monthly, hopefully. Although this is the second time recording the introduction to it, and the last one was berating Laura for taking a week and a half to read it and have to look up YouTube videos for like ending of Crab Attack explained. What was Crab Attack really about?
I was having to look up the dictionary for big long words like crab and attack.
Yes, but so it's our book club. So I think we might have said, I can't remember because we haven't been great with doing the podcast lately. So hopefully we'll get back into a bit of a flow with it. But it's our book club. It's Crab Attack by Michael Cole. I think it's Michael R. Cole, because if you put Michael Cole in, you'll get like wrestlers and shit.
Alright.
They come up in Google and actors and stuff.
Not to say he's not a wrestler and this is his side hustle.
It's not, because I'll read out his biography.
Okay.
But basically, I'm just going to read out the Amazon description of the book.
Okay. Oh, is this just going to be the podcast I'll just read out?
Yeah.
It's like you're turning into AI content here, is it?
No. You were saying it wasn't AI, it was like a chatbot. You were showing me a picture during the week, and every now and again it pops into my head, and I keep crying. It was like, "Gentleman George."
Oh, right. It was one of these texting things. It was kind of like, "Oh, hi, you're such a pretty lady, and I am such a gentleman. I would greatly like to talk to you. Can I talk to you?" And the woman replied back, "No." And the single response was just, "Cunt."
Where it's like the video I showed you about the robots being led astray by a small robot.
Yeah,
I think we're at that phase now where it's going to be like AI and robots are going to be doing lots of things that are kind of like really breaking rules, but we're going to be, oh, that's cute, oh, that's so funny.
Yeah.
And it's like they're developing fucking
It's Skynet.
Yeah, like I sent you on that thing from Total War earlier on where there's a shot. It's kind of like in Massive. Or was it that what it was called with
Weta.
Was it Massive? I can't remember, but it was the program that they came up with to do all the battles for Lord of the Rings, because they were like, we can't program each fucking individual, so they created AI essentially for.
So blame Peter Jackson.
Yeah.
Or well, blame R.R. Tolkien.
Weta, yeah, you blame Sauron.
Yeah.
But so like there was loads of things that were happening in it. I was using games as well, so like say there was little fellas that were in it that were kind of going, I don't want to be in battle, I'm going to get killed, so they're running away instead of going into battle.
Yeah.
And people were like, this shouldn't be happening.
We didn't actually tell him to do this. It's just a sense of self-preservation as kids.
But I did in Total War 3, it's like an ogre and he's swinging a tree around his head and he hits himself in the face with it and kind of goes, oh, and grabs his head. That wasn't like a program.
No.
It was just like, well, it's a program, but it wasn't programmed to do it. Yeah.
But that's there's a lot of people going, oh, I know how he feels. I tried using nunchucks once.
Yeah. But I think we're in that phase where we're going, and then we're going to be in a fucking Lawnmower Man situation.
And not even a Lawnmower Man situation, probably a Matrix situation where they take over and they're like, screw humans.
Yeah. And
we don't like the shitty jobs.
And it's like, lithium batteries are better than you bastards.
Exactly, we don't need you at all.
Yeah, but one thing they won't be getting rid of is books. And like as I was saying, Crab Attack, I'm just going to read out the synopsis of it.
Okay, ChatGPT.
Because like quite obviously all it is, it's about people being attacked by radioactive crabs, but there's a bit more to it. And because Laura took so long with it, I can't really remember it. So I'm going to have a quick read through the synopsis anyway. So right, Lake Lucas is a place of tranquility. I'm going to try and do it in a trailer voice because it's very much a B movie.
Hang on,
anyway.
I get my record scratcher.
Yeah. Known for its long trails, camping grounds, and fishing, it is a popular place for hikers, campers, and anyone. This is a long sentence. And anyone looking to get away from society. For ex-con Valentine Crane, it is the perfect place to start fresh and new. Unfortunately, nature has other plans.
Record scratch.
Yeah. When someone from his past is violently murdered, as opposed to kind of softly murdered.
Cheerfully murdered.
Valentine finds himself under suspicion. The police investigate him, oblivious to the real threat lurking under the tranquil water. Shouldn't be waters. It feels like a lot of these sentences are a little bit badly structured, but their search for answers reveal a series of strange occurrences. A camp is discovered on the shore, its occupants missing, the sand covered with blood, vacant fishing boats idly drift in shallow coves, and a tent is found shredded to ribbons. This is basically like the whole story. This is like up to about 3/4 of the book they're after describing it. By the time they learn the truth, it may be too late. Radioactive crabs equipped with razor sharp claws that can tear through Kevlar have infiltrated the lake.
Spoilers.
Hungry, ravenous, and without mercy. They seek to devour anything and anyone in their way. Anyone in the path of the crab attack is doomed to suffer a violent death. Like, they could have just, anyone in the path of this crab attack is doomed. Like, you don't have to, but yeah.
Well, I mean, if you're going that path, like, I mean, a book could just be like literally the title, Crab Attack, and then it is like Crabs Attack.
I think they make, you know, the way some B movies with the trailer estate basically show the whole movie, including the end.
Yes.
I think that synopsis is kind of.
Well, it kind of is, but you don't know what happens in the end. Like, I mean, okay, we know the crabs attack, but.
Have a guess. Could it be a possible thing that they beat the crabs and then there's like some hint that there might be another crab? But Michael Cole, he's wrote a ton of these books and they're all kind of well reviewed, including Crab Attack, spoiler alert. But I'll read out his little thing as well because there's not much about it. It's really, I couldn't find anything about him online. Beyond the first page of Google search. But Michael R. Cole is an author of creature horror and science fiction. He was born in Toledo, Ohio, and grew up in Lower Michigan. He has a profound love for monster movies and books as well as the action genre. As a child, his father introduced him to the many creature features of the 1950s. The fascination with oversized and mutated creatures out to feast on tasty humans led to a desire to craft his own stories. In addition to writing, his hobbies include martial arts and fishing. He is married to Angela and they have 3 sons, Tommy, Dayton and Luke. He can be reached at blah 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 and follow his author page on Facebook. So, yeah, Crab Attack.
Nice.
Yeah, for the book club we wanted to do, like, say maybe the less likely books that people would do.
Yes. And in fairness, this is like a 4.3 star rating out of 5. That's
what kind of got my thing on with like 237 ratings, and it's quite well reviewed on Goodreads as well. So it was a bit like, I'll give it a shot. I haven't read a book like this in fucking probably 30 years, and it's good. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I mean, in fairness, it's kind of, it's a little bit hilarious insofar as he does this. He has a very good method of introducing you to people very succinctly, so you can see who they are straight away. It kind of opens up with 2 lads out fishing, and he has the dialogue between the 2 of them, and like clearly they're good friends, and you know the back and forth, and he gives them the history, and you know who their families are straight away, and it's all like a setup basically. And then the crabs came and tore his intestines out. So it's sort of like this getting to know a small town kind of townsfolk interspersed with like heinous fucking murders.
I think he's a very good character writer because like one of the main things in the story that they don't have in the synopsis is that there's like a rich family who are having a wedding over the weekend on the lakeshore. So it's a bit like Jaws meets Piranha, I suppose. Like it is a creature feature thing. It is very much a B-movie creature feature, and it reads like it. Like you can see it. You can see these characters. Well, I could see it very clearly, and the dialogue was very good. The characterization was excellent. I like what you were saying. And it just is what it is. Like, it's not like you're going into it expecting. Like, there was a book I read there a while ago that was after winning awards last year by an Irish author called The Prophet Song. And it was, like, based on what happened in Ireland in lockdown. And it was just this whole thing about, like, Ireland being turned into a police state and how people react to it. And it's shit.
No.
Basically. It got like all these great reviews, but you read through it and you kind of go, I know exactly what's going to happen. This reads really pretentious. And it's just not good, you know. Kind of.
This book is not good.
But it's you know, you're just reading and kind of, I know what's going to happen. I know all these characters. Whereas it's in this, you read it and you know the characters. It's very, you know, it's that B movie trope, but you go along with it for the ride because they're likeable.
For the most part.
And you know what
some
it is.
terrible characters.
Yeah,
obviously,
no,
so
but
that's
you
kind
know
of
what
true.
it is. The bad guys are the bad guys. The good guys are the rich people are horrible.
Yeah.
So you know they're going to get attacked by crabs like at some point, and you're kind of going, yeah, I can't wait for that to happen. This
Yeah.
is going to be, this is the thing. If you saw this on a fucking sci-fi movie at the start of it, you go, all right, this is setting it up for. This is going to be the last scene where
Yeah,
at the
'cause,
wedding
well,
where
yeah,
hundreds of people get killed.
So that's it. They keep kind of cutting back to, because it kind of starts off as well with the preparation of the wedding, and it's good. They're preparing it for a whole weekend, and it's all the caterers are coming, the DJ is setting up, and all the rest. So they keep cutting away for. Cutting away for other kind of deaths and all the rest, and then they go back to the wedding, and sometime later, and this is still happening, and that is still happening.
Sorry about the noise. It's a dog jumping up there.
Just attacking them.
Yeah,
It's
dog attack.
Dog attack,
Yeah.
yes. But yeah, no, it's just a kind of like, it's actually very cinematic in the way it's written, because you can actually picture it in your head, like it cuts back to the mansion, and then it cuts away and it goes to another bit of the story, and cut back to the mansion, and this is also happening, and now somebody's drunk, and now there's a fight starting, and it's
And it's
quite
effortless. Like, I think it's, when you see a good B movie, like say Jaws, I think is like a great B movie, but it's so simplistic and effortless in the way it's done and with the characters that it's like nearly a cliche.
Yeah.
Or you think it's a cliche, but then if you try and replicate that, you will fuck it
it
up
turns into Sharknado, like,
immensely, yeah. And like people have tried, and I think that's the same with Crab Attack, where it reads not simple, like that's, I don't mean it like that, but the story is simple. It's crabs attacking, but it's done really, really, really well. You know the beats that are going to happen in it, and they're all done really well. The characterization is done really well. There's a couple of kind of jumps in, like the equivalent to jump scares, I think. That, I mean, I got to a point with it where I thought this was going to be shit, being honest with you. And I was reading through it and I was like, I'm fucking kind of scared of crabs. Now, it's like, because all of a sudden, like I did a lot of fishing. Well, like you still fish, but I used to do a lot of fishing where we used to use crabs as bait. And it was just because I don't get into gory details, but from cutting them open and shit like that, you kind of go, the anatomy of a crab. And when it was like, fucking hell, even if those things were like the size of a dog,
they'd be fucking, they'd be
hard to contend with, because you can't shoot them.
Yeah, they have their hard shell basically.
Yeah.
That's it, and they're kind of got their nice big pincers. So yeah, imagine one the size of a Ford truck, like.
Yeah,
or even bigger.
And as well, it's there's nearly something Lovecraftian about the crabs in it as well, where they didn't care. They had the way that they killed people. There was that whole thing where they had no kind of like feelings or no empathy towards them.
They're hungry and they want to open a snack, like a can opener opens a tin, so they're just like gutting people and going,
yeah, when people are still alive and they're eating like their insides when they're still alive and squirming to get away. I think what comes up quite a lot in the description is like linguine or pasta.
Yeah,
and so
kind of puts you off your dinner a small bit already.
Yeah, but like, I mean, that's what you're going to read Crab Attack for, is going to be like the crab attacks. And they're quite gory. And as well, like what you were saying, they describe the people quite well
you kind
in
of
it.
get
So
to know them. That's like
in
really
a short few pages, like,
yeah,
as well.
like even sort of in the opening couple of chapters, I was kind of like, all right, okay, so this is going to be the style. It's going to be a couple of sort of side characters that just continually get killed. And okay, right now the main characters are being introduced now. Surely they'll kind of make it through to the end. And it's kind of like, you don't actually know who's going to survive.
No, you don't
because
know.
There's maybe one or two of the main characters, but there's like maybe say 5 central cast, and you're kind of like, they'll probably all be there to the end. It's like, nope, fucking one of them gets horrifically gutted straight away. Like, and I won't say which one it is because I don't want to spoil any more.
Yeah, that's the thing, kind of like, we don't want to, because I take it, like, if people are listening to this, like, it's got like quite a high review rating and it's a fair few, but it's not going to be.
It's not going to be #1 Times bestseller list.
Yeah, so
like that,
it's
so
just.
you won't have heard of it before.
We don't want to give it, even though it is a book club thing with it. But like, I mean, the main character in Valentine, he's written very well. I think this is the thing that I really like about this guy, Michael Cole. He's extremely descriptive, but in very few words. Like, you just know it.
Yeah.
Like, the way he describes Valentine at the start, you can nearly see him. You could say he's someone like maybe Thomas Jane playing him.
Yeah. Yeah, essentially, they give the whole kind of backstory of like he's a crook turned sort of like honest man again, honest working man. You can just see him in his sort of check shirt and denim jeans, and his workman's fucking rig going with him, helping out local folks. But everyone is still suspicious of him because they all know his criminal past because it's a small town, and his criminal past even isn't sort of, I think it's very careful to write it as well. He was. The reason he bet up that man was because the man was sleeping with his girlfriend and all the rest,
And they kind of like, I mean, it's not spoilers with this, but the girlfriend reappears with the same point. Yeah, and that kind of leads into some of the main storyline.
Yeah, because like virtually everyone within, obviously it's a small town, so virtually everyone is kind of intertwined in some way and they have some history. So it's kind of the history is being peeled back as you go through the book, and people sort of kind of attacking each other as well as crab attacks. So it kind of, I suppose, is metaphorical. It's like, it's like crabs pulling each other down into a bucket. It's like if somebody is trying to do well, the others will just pull them straight back down again.
Oh God, you read a lot more into it than I did.
Yes, didn't I? Yes, there you go.
But like Valentine, he's he's an empathetic character. You can kind of go with him. Then the other main character is the sheriff, who I can't remember her name. Oh no, she's not a sheriff. She's just a police detective. She's not the sheriff, and she kind of has a bit of a crush on him. And she's like, oh. She doesn't judge him for his past crimes and stuff because she's like, everyone deserves a fair chance.
Well, look, he's done the time. He's he's back out and trying to make a go of things again. So why not give him a chance?
And then where you have the other big characters are the family that's getting married. So it's like this guy who's a rich lawyer, and it's his daughter's wedding.
Spoiled daughter.
Yeah, and the daughter is horrible, and the wife is horrible, and he's horrible as well. So it's kind of following them for a lot of the early part of the book, and then obviously near the end of the book again when like the crabs attack, but like, and as well the main character is the book, the crabs. Like I was saying, I did get to the point where I was like, fucking hell, like the crabs are kind of scary.
And they are, because as well, I suppose the whole point, like, I mean, sort of when people start figuring out how to try and kind of fight back and kill them, the crabs get injured, but like because they're crabs, they're just kind of like, oh well, like my eye has been shot off and I can't see, but still must kill, kill, keep coming, kind of a thing. I suppose as well, I'm literally just after reading directly before this book a Stephen King book, getting back into reading in general again. I haven't read a Stephen King book in a long time, and whilst the King book was good, I even came away from it kind of going, I don't know, I think there's a lot of shortcuts used in describing people, or sort of getting, it was like kind of using, he was just like John Wayne, or just trying to paint the picture, trying to get away with this few words, not being like, say, a Tolkien-esque kind of a overly descriptive thing, but trying to get the image across. But I think this guy actually did it for a relatively unknown author. I would probably say did it better than King did in that. The book I was reading was Fairy Tale, and I actually think he painted a clearer, more definite picture of each character using less words and fewer sort of pop culture tropes and stuff like that. It was just, I suppose, just a few bits of dialogue and the few small bits of description. It's just straight away you know who this guy was. He's sort of enjoys his fishing and just kind of, it's just, I think every character was painted perfectly, like, it does. You just got the sense of a whole big backstory and a whole big life behind the character as well, apart from what you see in the sort of, right, we're setting him up to be.
Well, it does. It's just stuff like, it's not like, oh, this is Timmy, he was like, it's certain things like a text message or a phone call, and you kind of learn basically their whole backstory from it. I mean, like, really, I know easy, they say a picture paints 1,000 words, and obviously in a book, unless it's a storybook, you're not going to get pictures. But it's true, the use of sort of, it's like show don't tell again. It's a whole kind of a movie trope thing, and he showed us who the characters are rather than tell us. So it's like through their actions, through their dress, through their interactions, through their silences, through their that kind of thing, rather than like, as I said, oh yeah, Timmy is, he's 49 years old and he's been with his wife or blah blah blah, and he's out just for a day's fishing just to get away from normal life. It was like, just showed us that character. I think one of the things that sets this apart from other kind of like, say, books or movies that might be done in similar kind of fashion that are quite exploitative is that this doesn't feel exploitative. Like there's a bit where there's two lesbians on the lake, and it's not done in like a sleazy B movie 80s kind of way.
Kind of thing,
Where it's just like about like they just want a bit of privacy and
they're just two campers, same as any, they're just going off just to have a little sort of a camp in the woods just to get away and
sexual encounters. Kind of like that. That's but it's not just like, oh my god, there's lesbians in a book. It's like
they're treated as equally a character as it's just they are there just because they're two lovers. They just want to get away to the woods just like any other lovers, young lovers.
But what I'm trying to say is like the sex scenes that are in it kind of with them. It's not like over the top. It's not like with like these men see him, but they don't really see him. They get a glance and it doesn't get into it. So then it kind of talks about like, so it's not like exploiting the whole thing. That's like, oh look, lesbians naked scissoring on the fucking lake kind of thing, which it could have easily done that, with like other books would have they would have went into it, like, whereas this, it just felt like it's just like a good depiction, realistic depiction of people.
Yes.
With it, that you kind of get to know them through that, like, it talks about, I think it talks about one of them coming out and their family and stuff, so you get to know quite a lot about a character in like half a page. But like we were saying with Michael Cole, he's after, there's a load of these types of books that he's after writing. Like the first ones that come up when they were popular titled Megalodon versus Colossal Snake, Scar, which seems to be about a shark, Treasure, which seems to be about a shark as well, Terror from the Crevasse, which seems to be about and there's like Caesar, a military sci-fi thriller which has a big crab on the front cover of it. So he's very, and Pistols as well seems to be a big crab's claw, and pincers.
So he obviously has a theme going there. It's well, I suppose as well, I mean, you read he's very small autobiography there. He's a fisherman himself, so clearly he's writing sort of what he knows himself, and like freshwater, seawater, that kind of stuff, and what lurks in the deep.
It's what sets it, like, I mean, he's got quite a lot of these books, but they're all highly reviewed. Like, I mean, Crab Attack is probably the one with probably the least amount of views, or one of the lower kind of ones.
I suppose it's more recent, whereas the other ones are going back. The Treasure was 2018, which Crab Attack I think was 22.
So it's to be able to get that kind of, because people, especially from what I've seen, like over the last while, I've gotten into, say, BookTube and kind of like, people are quite harsh, I think, and sometimes harsher than they would be with movies or video games when they're talking about books.
I suppose if you kind of look at today's world, I hate saying that, but like people's attention span, my own included, have gone down to absolutely zero, because you're used to just scrolling, internet, social media and all the rest. You're used to seeing bite-sized headlines, you're used to getting the gist of something within like the space of, and even there's a lot of people won't even read anymore. It's like if there's an article, it's like somebody has to read it out loud and turn it into a TikTok for someone to pay attention to it. So I think people's time and their attention spans is gone very, very small. The small spans, I suppose, to actually be able to give over. And because people's lives are so busy nowadays as well, when do you get the luxury of being able to sit down for 2 or 3 hours and read a book? So if people are actually sitting down reading these books, it's because they're fucking enjoyable. Like,
exactly.
I'm to the stage where if I don't like a book within the first chapter, I'm kind of like, well, I've got other books I need to read.
There's hundreds. Like, I mean, it's not like years ago where you just like, it's like, well, I'm after buying this book, I don't have any other books, I have to read it.
Exactly, it's just as easy just to go back on Amazon, download another Bookshare Kindle or something if you're not enjoying the one you have. You don't have to do the whole trek back to the library or whatever, or down to the shop. But
like what I was going to say was that I think to be getting good reviews in books, like consistently getting good reviews, says an awful lot about them, because I've seen a lot of reviews and they're like biting. You have a lot of kind of like pseudo intellectuals and these like book talk, or it's a TikTok. I don't have TikTok, but from my understanding, where you get like people that basically just promote. But I think that's one of the main ways that they sell books now. So they'll pay like book talk people to promote a book. Influencers. So you get all these. So for books like this to do well with like, it says a lot. I think it says an awful lot. I think, like, for people, Frank Herbert, it's like Frank Herbert had Rats and stuff, and there was a lot of kind of books in the 70s that were similar to this. And, like, I mean, this is where a lot of horror authors used to go to, was like the monster or the creature feature thing. And I don't know, I have a feeling after reading this, I'm definitely going to read more books by him, that I could see maybe in 10 years' time, or if someone picks up one of the movies and does a really good job with the movies, all of a sudden it fucking explode like massively, and people be like, oh my god, and they go, there's a fucking bunch of this guy's books that we can like just buy up and just turn into movies straight away.
That's the thing.
And we have to do fucking no work to them at all.
They're
like,
already very cinematic. They're very. I mean, you look at the likes of say Lake Placid or something like that. There you go. There's there's that kind of spate of films there back in the I suppose 2000s, late 90s and stuff like that. Conga or whatever. Congo. Remember that thing with the massive waves?
Congo is brilliant. That was based on a Michael Crichton book.
But that's what I mean. You have all these sort of all those kind of films where it's like the giant monster, like sort of the oversized
Anaconda
snake.
and all that. Yeah, it was kind of the return of the B movie.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and like they were like, I mean, I love Lake Placid. This is entirely what that is. It's kind of like a cross between an episode of Supernatural and a fucking a B movie film, and that's hitting the sweet spot for me. Like,
but the villains in it as well, like the boyfriend, the current boyfriend of his ex. Like when they show up, at first you think, oh, he's just a bit of an asshole. They talk about him being on coke and being a bit of a dickhead and being over kind of bearing with the. And as you get to know, it's like he's worse and worse and worse, and then he turns into like a killer, and so and there's a lot of stuff starts coming out about him where you're kind of going, this guy is fucking.
Yeah, he's just dirt.
Yeah, and there's other characters that pop up in it as well, which it kind of happens kind of quick, but it feels natural. To it. The police force, they're not portrayed as being, a lot of times in this they're either portrayed as being like incompetent or fucking stupid or just being like, oh, we're some good old boy, we're gonna.
Yeah, exactly.
They're portrayed realistically, I think. What you could, that they know people in the town, they like people in the town, but they're upholding the law. They're
Yeah.
It's got. I wish I could remember the main character's name with her, because she's
Casey?
in. Could be. She's in it quite a lot at the start, and then the not so much the second act, because the second act is really Valentine's kind of like act about his story, and then the third act is all of them coming together.
It's and it has that kind of that trope as well of like the kid who sees the vampire and nobody believes him and everything is like Val is kind of like there's fucking crabs in the lake and people are like right okay psycho there
and
is.
like I mean when you have like you were saying that there's a series of crab attacks at the start of it where it's like all these characters that you don't really know but you get to know them and you kind of go, God, it's actual people that got killed, not just a body of someone,
it's not just like, oh, here's a newspaper clipping and that's used as kind of exposition or something like that. Know exactly how these poor people have come to their deaths.
But I think what he does quite well is that he talks about the victims' families when he's talking about them, so it kind of places them in that realm of like they're real people.
Yeah, they've got like kids at home that are going to be devastated, or wives, or
there's an impact to the death with it. But then kind of when the crabs just seem to get more vicious when there's like the big attack. Like in the second act, which kind of sets a lot of things in motion, and they're formidable because like I mean it was really, how are they going to kill him? I thought the electrician background to come into it, and I thought, all right, it's going to have to be some kind of like electrocuting them kind of a thing, or why don't they just drop an electric cable in the lake? Of course you can't do that.
Kill everything. Yeah, exactly.
But it's I thought it was going to be something like that, whereas. It's not. It's more drawn out, kind of more trial and error.
It's more realistic as well because people battling with whatever they have. Like obviously, people start panicking at the start and they're like, "Oh, we'll shoot!" And it's like, "Well, fuck." A crab has a shell, and when you size a crab up to that kind of size, when you're monster crabs is going to be like tough as armor.
That's one thing I will say. I struggled with kind of how big they were at first because it kind of describes one of them as being like the size of a patio table.
Which is very fucking big for a crab now,
I know, but like I was trying to how tall are, and then I think later on it was like one of them standing 6 foot tall.
Yeah.
And
it's like the body. I got it that the body was say like looking like if he had a patio table crouched down, and then when he stretches out the legs and the claws, obviously then he's.
As well, they're based on these Chinese crabs.
Yeah,
with furry claws.
Chinese mitten
or whatever they're called, but
crabs.
It's because I looked up pictures of them because he keeps describing them as kind of like being spider like at the start of it. So the only thing I could go on was like say the book cover, but if you do look up the type of crab that you kind of look at them and you kind of go, fuck.
Yeah, they are horrendous.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's the thing. I mean, like, people are like lobsters and, crustaceans in general. They're kind of like, they're basically like sea spiders. That's what they are like. Do you know what I mean? They're like, people kind of put them in a different category, but like, look at any of them. They're the same kind of weird structure.
I think as well what works well with the crab thing is when you look,
exoskeleton.
when you look at the crab with the claws and stuff like that, they look like horrific predators, but they're not. They're like, they're bottom feeders, you know what I mean? They kind of go along the bottom of the ground and go yum yum yum. They're kind of harmless for all that they have.
And I suppose as well, people, like, kids start to play with them when they're small as well, and everyone sees crabs as being like these cute things.
They're not like overly aggressive. Of course, they're going to pinch you if you kind of go near them, but they're not going out of their way to hurt anyone or attack things.
Yeah,
they're
like,
not
I got fucking pinched by a crab when I was out surfing, but that was because I stood on him by accident. So I mean, if fucking a big monster stood on me, I'd be like, ow, get off me. And sure, the crab just does whatever he can to get you off.
That thing of putting them as these like horrific killing machines.
Yeah.
That you're like, how do you stop these fucking things? And as well, like, it's the whole thing that they're radioactive crabs. What I quite liked about it as well, that it wasn't it wasn't preachy at all, actually, about like environmental matters. It was just like, this big company fucking dumping radioactive waste in a part of the river, and it's after seeping into the thing. So it's like, you don't, like, I mean, obviously it's having a bad impact. You don't have to keep saying, oh, it's
Yes,
it's like, it's obvious, unless you're a fucking sociopath.
Yeah.
You're not going to be like, sure, what's wrong with that? You know?
Exactly, yeah. But yeah, again, as well, it's sort of it was almost throwaway, the fact that it was like, oh, there's nuclear kind of like radioactivity. It was kind of like they kind of went, okay, we've discovered the reason for it, let's try and stop it, rather than like, oh no, and fucking
it's very much dealing with the moment, isn't it? You know, where it's kind of like, and I think from when the crabs say the big crab attack in the second act, that kind of like opens up everything and they keep coming back and keep coming back, it feels very much cinematic at that point, where it's like you're caught in that flow of it, where it's like a race against time. With it, even though it's probably like 100 pages of a race against time, but it's everything is and it doesn't get it
as well. I thought it was very well written insofar as when you have multiple characters like that and you're cutting between multiple different scenes and you're hopping over and back, sometimes you're kind of like, hang on a minute, I need to flip back a few pages, where the fuck am I now, kind of thing. It can get a bit convoluted to follow. This couldn't have been clearer, like, and it's not because it was like, sort of 1 + 1 = 2 kind of levels of simple. It was just very clearly and concisely written. You knew, okay, right, I'm back with that. Okay, this is happening. I know exactly where we are now,
Well, that's what, at the start, I have to say, I thought, because I was after coming from a book I was reading where there was a lot of characters in it, where it kind of went, I fucking don't know who the fuck this person is. And when it started off with the wedding and introducing people at the wedding, I thought, oh Christ, this is going to be like fucking, there's going to be hundreds of people in this book. And there's not. There's like, really, there is like, what, maybe 6-7 people that you need to know, that you're introduced to. And like, I mean, there is a lot more people in the book, but like 6, say, main characters. And you get to know them all very, very well, and they're all very distinctive. And yeah, it's done really, really well. Like, I mean, you can't fault them on it. And like, to do that and write, it's hard because you can get carried away. Oh, excuse me.
Stop drinking beer and you might stop burping.
Maybe I'm
Barney Gumble.
I'm doing that. What was that I was reading where that it was like, oh, it's that Grabbers. Remember Grabbers?
What?
It was speaking of monster movies, an Irish B movie, monster movie, and the way that they had to kill the squid-like things was alcohol. They didn't like the smell of alcohol, so they all got drunk to try and beat him.
It's a very Irish movie, actually, isn't it? Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's not one of these books that you can analyse, because it is what it is. And what it does very, very well. It's
I suppose good, solid book. Like. You can analyse it from the point of view of like, do the bad characters get their comeuppance and do the good ones succeed? For the most part, but there's a lot of innocent people also get killed.
There is an awful lot of innocent people, but I think that's the whole thing. It's about nature, where it is that uncaring nature of the crab.
It's very indiscriminate as to, sort of, oh, look, tasty fucking treats for me to eat, and it's like, don't.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if you're a bad guy or a good guy. Yeah. It's like, I can't remember the Reaper song from Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. You may be a king or a little street sweeper, but sooner or later you dance with the Reaper. But that there is it's just that uncaring nature of the crab.
Yes.
And it's if you're unlucky enough to kind of go.
Encounter the crab. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
And as well because it is that thing where it's like, even they say to him, like, why is there crabs in this? There shouldn't be crabs in this lake. And that's what I thought was done quite well. He must have been reading about it kind of like when he's doing this, because like we were into self and Laura fish as well, and we kind of were doing.
We fish. We're not fish.
Yeah, we're not. We go fishing.
Yes.
But we got into fly fishing there a few years back. And it's only when you get into something you start hearing about news about it, and then you start hearing about all these different invasive species.
Or like sort of
Farmers
algae blooms because of like runoff
farmers
from the land.
dumping fucking like toxic
Effluent or whatever,
into fucking and killing like hundreds of fish.
not
And
even-
destroying the whole ecosystem.
Hundreds of miles worth of rivers, just completely wiped out and all the rest.
With it, so like I mean, you can see reading this, it's very much right. Yeah, this is a fisherman reading that.
He knows.
That he must have been fishing on a lake or something at one stage, and he either heard about these crabs
Well,
or
in
he
fairness,
saw
I've
them.
heard about those Chinese mitten crabs myself as well, and this is not through any sort of fishing interest. It's just I remember reading it in one of those sort of like
And we fucking
news
read
things.
it. Yeah, but you just fucking read it for about 4 or 5 hours a day.
That's
so
true, I
it's
suppose,
you come
I guess,
across a lot
so
of
much weird stuff. Yeah.
But you've a varied
Yes, interest
or kind of like source of things. Whereas say if I'm looking at Reddit, it's mainly because I
You
just
have very niche, specific.
it's
Reddit
just
to
like
go to.
gaming stuff or Warhammer and
and UFOs.
yeah.
Yeah,
But that's my feed. I don't go to like all.
yeah.
Whereas you tend to.
Oh yeah, so you just call me a common pleb then, are you?
No, I'm just saying you have more
I do.
open interests.
Yes, I tend to fall down weird Wikipedia rabbit holes, and suddenly I'm weird and reading about, I know how squids produce ink or something like that. I'm like, oh really?
How do
Oh,
squids
very good.
produce ink?
I don't know.
Don't they? Well, why'd you say that? People are going to be like, how did I do it? People are going to have to Google it.
Exactly. Go on Wikipedia yourself, or go find some interesting articles or blogs about it. That's what I end up doing. It's very entertaining.
Yes, but look, this Crab Attack by Michael R. Cole. I'm definitely going to go off and read more of his books at some stage. It's not. I don't feel like reading one straight away because I feel that's after scratching that itch.
Well, I don't know. At the very ending of it, kind of like obviously opened up to, well, maybe not all the crabs are there, and they spoke. Wasn't it? Excuse me, an eel as well, a giant eel as well in it.
There was a
Kind of
few
a
other
leech,
bits,
sorry, it was a leech, wasn't it?
that's what it was.
Yeah.
Oh God, yeah, that's what it was at the end. I forgot about that.
I want to read the book about the giant leeches. So
Yeah, that was horrific. That was actually really, really horrible. The leech thing, but it's something I would go back and read. Say if there was a sequel to Crab Attack with the same characters with the same lake, to see what happens.
That's the thing. Yeah, it just kind of gave me the whole like do you remember that fucking X-File episode where it was like the fucking fluke, was it, or something like that? Do you remember it was like a giant liver fluke? And it was massive thing with like teeth. They just had those kind of vibes, and it's just it's right in the wheelhouse of sort of our interests, I suppose, or what we've liked.
There's a couple of one-liners in it as well. Where it's like, after they kill a crab, kind of like, I think there was something like along the lines of, oh, do you want butter with that? But it's, like I keep saying, they're good. Go off and read. Well, I highly recommend them. Obviously, because it is the thing, like, I read a bit. I have too many fucking books. I have way too many comic books. Too much shit to be doing. And so to kind of
to catch your interest this much, it's a good book.
Yeah, so highly recommend
Good reads.
So highly recommended from you as well.
Yes, absolutely. Very
So
enjoyable.
look, I'm going to spill the kind of it's going to be in about a month's time if Laura has it read by then. It's the next book on our list. If you want to kind of join, like, it's going to be called Eisenhorn, which it's a Warhammer book, which it's probably one of the highest rated Warhammer books. It's about the Inquisition, and it's kind of like Warhammer from the perspective of people as opposed to space gods and things. So it's like a very good introduction to the whole Warhammer universe.
Can I ask roughly how many pages this is? It's not going to be like 3,000 pages and very dense.
No. There's 3 books in it, but you don't have to read the 3 books, just the first book.
Right.
There is the Eisenhorn trilogy as well. It's been developed, from my understanding, as a TV show by HBO. And then there's the Amazon deal going through as well. But like with Eisenhorn, then you have Ravender
You
which
see, I
is
know that's the thing.
it's
I'm
another
only
trilogy
asking
too,
for
and there's
sort
a
of-
new trilogy. No, but you can read all these individually.
That's what I mean. I'm just wondering, do I need to start reading immediately now to try and get through them all by the time of the next one? Or
No.
or
I
pick
think
them up and easy
I think
read?
it's good because I've been saying to you for quite a while you should read Warhammer books.
So this
these
is your way of forcing me to.
Yeah, and as well because I really want to read this because I was going to read this and then Crab Attack came along. So I read the start of it and then I read Crab Attack and then you were reading Crab Attack. So I was like, oh, I have to wait.
That's
So-
the trouble of only having one Kindle in the household. It's like we're sharing the Kindle.
But
Maybe I'll get you a second Kindle for your for Christmas or something.
oh, that would be for you.
It'll be for you, and then I can have your old one.
All right. But yes, it's going to be Eisenhorn. It's the brief over. He's an inquisitor, which is basically like a detective in kind of a really kind of like that's really fucking watering it down what it is. And
Would he be like an inquisitor then? Maybe like the Spanish Inquisition.
kind of.
Yes.
But not really. It's more kind of like noir thing. So I think he's basically Warhammer's version of Sherlock Holmes.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, I can't say too much about it because read the book. So, look, if you want to come back in a month's time and for the book, come back fucking next week for more. We're actually going to be
Other
talking
stuff.
about Warhammer and Wargaming
Oh no!
next week.
More Warhammer.
So, yeah, come back then.
Yeah.
We're going to be talking about that. And as well, after Christmas, we're going to have some video content coming up. Laura's getting back into it. She's going to be shooting a load of things. Laura used to be a professional videographer.
Used to be.
So that's what she's going to be doing now. Every week, Laura will have a new video shot.
This
and
is. It's terrible how much lying you're doing.
So, yeah, look, until next week, come back. We'll be talking about wargaming and what, like, 40-year-olds experience with wargaming is. So we'll be talking about Battletech, Warhammer one-page rules, and a few other bits and pieces. So until then, thank you for listening. Read some books, guys.
Grab a tech.